and get along with others at the same time. And so, in a nutshell, again, positioning skills, entrepreneurial skills, and interpersonal skills, they all come together to help the entrepreneur to grow. And when the entrepreneur grows, the business grows. And when the business grows, the FOB is established. And it keeps on for generations. Thank you very much. God bless you for listening.
Thank you very much, Professor Ajogwu. It's good to have elevated him, isn't it? From Mr. to Doctor and now Professor. Thank you for a good one. He talked about Ajogwu bread now being picked in the US. I think it's important that we conduct a research into the history of Ajogwu bread. Because Ajogwu bread is sold in Aja. What we call Ajogwu bread is sold in Aja, and I doubt if it is moved from Agege to Aja every morning. It is in Shomolu, it is in Ikorodu, it is in Ekpe, it is in Badagry. So I would suggest that we begin to brand bread by the locality of where they are baked. The bread that is made in America definitely should be called Washington bread. You said it. And yes, you also talked about businesses that die immediately the founders die. There are also businesses that die even when the founders are still alive. The Okada example that you cited is dead while the founder is still alive. And lastly, you talked about telephone killing telegraph and GSM killing telephone, and what will kill GSM. Well, what is happening now, I think, is the NCC that will kill GSM. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite our next speaker, as a professor of law. He's also a member of the governing board of the Lagos Business School and is a faculty member at the Lagos Business School. Please welcome Professor Fabian Ajogwu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria.
To the founder and visionary of CBL, our own highly respected Professor Fabian Tommy, to the Director or Dean of the Rome Business School, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I have two things to offer. One is a commendation, and one is an apology, and they're due to different sets of people. My apologies for being 5 minutes late for my session, and I do apologize for that. But the commendation is to CBL and the Rome Business School for being very precise with time and starting its event on time and following through the script with precision. There's a round of applause for that. I'm going to be talking to you about legal challenges and management of conflicts in family businesses. And this is a very important thing because very often the challenge is why businesses have not survived from the founder to the next generation. As previous chairman of LEAP Africa, we had seen to the production of a book, Define the Odds. And it sought to catalog businesses that had survived generations of managers from the initial founder, where the founder is gone and the businesses are still thriving. And mentioned companies like Punch newspapers, and I talked about companies like Orazmike Trading Company, companies that you may not know, but are doing very well and turning good profit for their people. Now, I have prepared a paper that seeks to explain the family firm concept, advise the audience on the legal structure and framework within the Nigerian legal system, describe the evolutionary stages in the life cycle of a family firm, talk about some peculiarities, some challenges that are faced by family firms, in addition to the challenges that the previous speaker talked about that face entrepreneurs generally. And sort of like advice on ways to minimize conflict that could come from family members or their stakeholders. So I have prepared you a 17-page paper. But it is received wisdom not to take you through the agony of listening to me read 17 pages. So I have availed that to the organizers who will email that PDF to you. But I would talk about some key points through some slides that I've prepared, which will be like a summary of this. So basically, the family firm, most would not know, are the world's oldest and most dominant form of business organization because they started out and they added the Rockefellers of this world started out as family businesses that expanded to what it is today. The Carnegie are family businesses that started out, and so many of them, Dantata, that you would say gives some seedling to Aliko Dangote, the FGN Okoye from the southeast. And so all of these businesses started out as family businesses. Then they account for a quarter of the United Kingdom's GDP, precision. And they employ about 12 million people, contribute about 125 billion pounds in the UK, with good statistics. And in Nigeria, almost 70% of businesses have started as SMEs, as family initiated. So the importance of family business is that they're actually wealth creation center points beyond anything else. But then, like the previous speaker mentioned, when you talk about family, what is the reason why you are bringing the other co-shareholders into the business is important, because very often that leads to the complications we find in business. So if we go by a definition, what is a family? And I say this because it's sometimes wider than you expect. It could get broadened by accident, not by your definition. But let's just look at it. Smallest unit in the social structure of every society, basis of every human community, includes blood relations in the widest connotation, even to the fifth cousin, or by marriage or in-laws. So it includes, the Supreme Court is giving a definition that stretches to any person, whether related to him or not, who's wholly or mainly dependent upon him. And that factors in the African definition of family, extended in nature. Whereas in the Western world, it might be a monogamous setting, and individualistic to that singular unit, nuclear unit. Here we've got sometimes polygamous, extended, and a wide catch of what family is. But then it's important to look at it from the perspective of those things that could happen upon people. People set up businesses to bring this back home, and suddenly the founder is no more. Whilst the founder was there, the clear leader of the company, the clear visionary was there, could determine the direction of the business, what it wants and what it doesn't want. But all of a sudden, that which has been appointed to happen to all of us happens, and the founder is gone. And then comes the crisis of transmission of ownership, cost of the transmission. Or maybe I should put it this way. And maybe just to dampen your mood a little, because I met you all happy, so let me sort of bring down your mood a bit. Not as a sadist, but some realities. When a man dies intestate, meaning he leaves no will, in our environment, we've got the administration of estate laws that says how his estate should be distributed. But depending on the marriage he conducted, if it's in Lagos State, as is most of the states in the South, all of his cash, shares in companies, stocks, cash in bank, jewelry, anything movable goes to his spouse. And 2/3 of immovables, that's real estate, goes to spouse, 1/3 to the children, if any. If there are no children, to the parents of the person who passed, and if there are no parents, to the brothers and sisters of the person, and if there are none, back to spouse, in that sequence. But we have a plural society, because we also have other laws that are recognized. Now, if he was married under Sharia law, then the Sharia system of inheritance distributes everything he owned equally, not discriminating against male, female. If he was also married under the native laws and customs of some southeastern or south-south communities in Nigeria, depending on the tradition, the oldest male sort of inherits everything and keeps it in trust for the family. You know that some of the trusts have been abused over time. If he was southwest, you have a variant of the Idigi or Oriojori, meaning you could divide it in accordance with the number of wives or in accordance with the number of children, be the denominator. But that's not what the problem is. The problem is that most of you complicate things by getting married under different systems of law. So you've done the native law and custom, which you call wine carrying, then you've done the church, then you've done the registry, and then the living are left debating which one of this did he intend. So I've come across arguments that say my late husband was a knight, a member of the bazaar committee. And that clearly showed that he intended his affairs to be governed under the Marriage Act, so apply the administration of estate laws. I've had counter arguments that say, woman, you lie. Our brother was the Okaome one of the community. He was an Otumba in his full rights. And as a matter of fact, on a timeline, recognizing the importance of traditional laws, he married you first under native law and custom, which comes before the... And so, at the time he took you to church, you were already his wife. You were just fulfilling righteousness. And you know who's weaker in this argument? Right? Who's the weaker part in the argument? The wife. And so I have seen people create wealth and failed to protect wealth by simply not organizing their estate and sort of putting things in quagmire for their people. We've seen successful businesses dissipated over a contest of the estate. So before I know that the areas of the principles of entrepreneurship would have been covered neatly, but let me speak to the things that can kill even a successful business, which is the absence of the structure of succession, and which is what every family business needs to pay attention to. So I continue with the definition just to put forward a few things. Components of an involvement type approach is, you see a firm which is family, the owner, or the firm is family managed or family controlled. Be not mistaken, there's a world of difference between owning and managing. I have seen incidents where family members own and allow professional managers to manage and give them their returns. They've flourished. Illustration. Ford. They don't bother with trying to run the business. They may put forward a member of the family on the board, but they will not interfere with established principles of running it. Transgression of this principle, I wouldn't call the name out of planned confidentiality. Every member of the family, one left his job in the UK and came back, everybody wanted to run the company. And what happens is, in business relationship, people fail to define what family is and what business is, and I'll tell you the big difference. You must, in a business relationship, you know where the door is, and you're happy to walk away or throw the other person out. Family is where you're accepted as you are, with all your faults and shortcomings. You are family. So how do you do business with somebody you can't walk away from? That is the first thing that we need to keep in mind, and that's why I talked about the approach. Now, the essence also has, family has influence regarding the strategy of the firm, or they have a vision and intend to keep control within some defined parameters, giving you different shades of control. So they're different, the kind of influence that a family would have may vary from outright running it to defining the vision of the founder. And this is what creates the culture of the company, the attitude and the vision of the people who founded it or who are then running it. But there's also a working definition, and it talks about family firm being something governed or managed with intention to shape and pursue the vision of the business, held by a dominant coalition controlled by members of the same family. And that is taken from Crazy Innovations in Small and SME Family Firms. So there are different kinds of approaches, and I won't belabor them, but the learning point here is that what makes for success is a defined parameter of how the family will come in, especially once the dominant visionary is no more. Now, just to quickly mention the legal framework that could affect the family business, the primary one being the structure. And I'm going to talk about the structure in just a bit in the next slide. So you've got the Companies and Allied Matters Act, you've got the NIPC, and you've got this one which the MC had talked about what could phase out GSM. And I sincerely pray not. I was at a meeting in London, and we're talking to some investors, and I was saddened to see my country risk the way it was classified. Along the same line of risks that I saw, violence, kidnapping, guess what came next? Regulation. I said, why do you lump kidnapping, violence with regulation? I said, no, we actually fear more the regulation. The kidnapping, we know what to do. But the regulator will kill you easily. And so it's a risk that, so the third line there, the foreign exchange, family businesses struggle to deal with 5 different exchange rates. And it's not friendly for investors to come in, because you don't know whether you're manufacturing, or your petroleum sector, or your agri, or your IFM, or your free market, or your IFM plus the GSM call. You simply don't know which one to take. But let me talk about structure. And I'll pause here. You've got all the structures I have on the screen. Most people will go through either the business name, sole proprietorship, especially at the lower line of small businesses, or consulting, or the private company limited by shares. But let me pause, and I know my preference is always to write as a teacher, but I like to let you imagine something. When, in the history of taxation, when tax was introduced in medieval Europe, the peasants resisted it with their last blood, saying, this is one more way of oppressing us. But the rich, or the rich-minded, quickly thought of an answer. And they said to them, you know, this whole tax business is just one way of taxing the rich. It's a Robin Hood, a structured Robin Hood. We get money from the rich and we redistribute it to everybody. And then they sort of accepted it. Prior to then, and I'd like to see what happened when they accepted the taxation. Look at on the left-hand side of the screen what happens to a man or a business name. He works very hard, he earns what? Income. And immediately after he earns the income, some guy called the government comes and does what to him? Taxes it. And whatever is left, he spends. Isn't it the sequence? Now, look at once the peasant accepted tax, see what the rich-minded did. They went to the right-hand side of the screen and defined a new set of rules, which you know. What does the company earn? Income. What happens immediately after the income? Expense. They can spend stupid. And whatever is left, we tax. So ladies and gentlemen, where would you rather organize your affairs? Company or human? Company. Because you have a lot of flexibility there. So sometimes, even to the question of families writing wills, I can share with you that I actually don't own a lot. I think I own my watch and phone, but everything else is in a private company for whom the shareholders are my wife and children. And so it's easy for me to deal with my house rent, because actually I'm a tenant of that company. I hope no LIRS or FIRS does it. But yeah, but engage professionals to structure this. And sometimes people throw away money, entrepreneurs, for lack of understanding of those structures. Don't forget, and I want to talk about this with family-owned businesses. It is appointed unto man once to die. And after that, hold on before judgment. Something comes before judgment. The tax office comes and says, I have inheritance tax to settle with you. But you see, tax is a very vicious thing. And family businesses need to understand this. Whilst we're alive, tax visits income. So if I have a high-rise building, 10 stories, and I decide not to put the tenants there, I can pay minimal property taxes. But the taxman may look at it green with envy. There's nothing he can do, because I'm not collecting rent. The minute I am no more, tax mutates and visits wealth. It says to the family, what is the value of this high-rise building? I think it's 1 billion. In Lagos State, the inheritance tax is 10%. So find me 100 million for me to issue letters of administration or probate. In England, don't say it's 40%. So you see, 40% to 10. And for those of you who stash your wealth in Switzerland, it's 60. Okay, so much of the family wealth is lost without an understanding of what happens to it. So we've seen people lose much of what they worked for. Now, I want you to visualize what happens in where the wealth is locked in a company. What happened? A shareholder died, so there's no inheritance tax. The owner of the property lives forever because man was able to give perpetual succession, was able to give immortality, that which he doesn't have himself, was able to give immortality to a company. So my advice is companies do need to understand the importance of structure and firm, especially in family-run businesses. And there are many more advantages I can talk about from now till the end of the session. Now, one more thing to mention by way of an advantage when we look at legal structure is current account dies the day the owner dies. I hope you know that. So if you have a current account that's 10 million and something happens to the person, the Zenith Bank will say, sorry, look at the bank balance, he has 10 million, but we don't know who to give it to. You have to bring us letters of administration of probate. It takes minimum of 3 to 6 months to get it. In the time being, the man's bills, I don't care how you pay it, but assume the money was with a family-owned company. So all you have to do is tell the bank that one of the signatories passed. And what do you need to do to appoint a new one? File a resolution on the same day and change the signatory and you move on. And I say that there's so much that you can do when you sit down to plan. My experience is that families don't plan. A lot of them don't plan. They delve into it, focus on the bread and butter without spending time to take proper advice on structure, transmission of wealth, what happens thereafter. And in any case, if you spend time and you're able to save your family 10% of the wealth, I think that you've done a whole lot for them. Now, I go to the next slide to talk about the evolution of family firm through what I would call about 4 phases. The entrepreneurship stage, which the person founded, the business idea, and started pushing. And today, just like the first speaker said, it's gone beyond saying, yes, everybody will drink water. It's about how you sell the water. Be more mindful, not just of competition, but what Christensen of the Harvard Business School calls the disruptive technology. So something could come and change the way everything was being done, like wiped out cameras from the market. So everybody is now, in fact, they video and they snap and then they take selfies, and so nobody even bothers anymore. Only at events, and even in this event, I've been looking to see why there's no, I don't see a photograph. Maybe one, oh, you're there. Okay, good. So only at events do I see people carrying with the camera and video. So that has completely taken out that industry. Now, it hit NURTW. You know who they are? Nigerian Union of Road Transport Workers. They were hit by a bullet called Uber. And they're still trying to recover. Who do we protest against? They said they don't know. That thing is in people's phones. Who is Uber? They don't know who Uber is. But Uber has taken away their market and their stranglehold on it. They can't regulate the fees that the people charge. They don't even know who to elect as their president. These Uber people have no union. So be wary about disruptive technology, and also think about creating your own disruption of the market. So the growth stage, when they're building, and at this stage is where you're advised to put systems, structures in place, standard operating procedures, put a board, try to be accountable to someone, even if you don't owe anybody that. Self-accounting is the key to success. Telling yourself, like a good Catholic would in the evening, an examination of conscience. What did I do today? Did I do what I was supposed to do? Did I love my neighbor? Self-accounting in business is a key to success when you appraise yourself with hard measures of criteria. Then the governance, very, very important. And then the maturity stage where the business is going. But be wary about maturity. My advice to maturity is to create a new level. You know what is called the head office, the headquarters mentality? There were some quiet, cynical studies about what happens to companies when they build that 50-story headquarters. A lot of them just die afterwards. You know the reason? They've arrived. The CEO looks through his window, looks through the whole downtown, sees everywhere and feels like, oh my goodness, we couldn't have this better. I warn seriously about when people announce they've arrived. Because I'll give you another illustration. When you're in a plane, traveling, you notice from here to Abuja, there comes a point when the pilot says we've arrived. It's that time he says, with a bit of arrogance, says, this is your captain. We've attained 32,000 feet above sea level. Weathers are clear. A few thunderstorms, nothing to worry about. We should soon be in Abuja. You know, there's an air of bragging. But I want you to observe what happens shortly after that announcement. Is that the plane now starts. You were always like this until you attained that bragging level. And after that says, okay, well, we're now making our approach towards Abuja. So you start. So that's what happens in life when you suddenly announce that we've arrived. Okay? There should never be an arrival. You should put the next target to going into the West African market. You should look at going public. You should look at acquiring other businesses, diversifying. There's always something to do. And that is the challenge that I see, because firms assume they've arrived, especially family firms, and then they go down. From an evolutionary point of view, you could look at 3 phases. And please do let me know when I have 5 minutes or 10. So I can wrap up. The founder stage, the first generation, the visionary. Then the siblings partnership, the more difficult generation. And I think we've done away with the culture where somebody assumes that whatever he likes, his children must like. We've seen lawyers, successful jurists, whose children decided to be punk musicians, and they have been successful. Okay? You've got, he'll call the name. And you also have the jurist, Chukwudifu Oputa, formerly of the Supreme Court, Charlie Boy. Now, the important thing is that you understand that there's success, because children succeed in whatever they do. And when you mention Fowles, where it was with father and son the last time in August, and the thing, people were meeting him and saying, oh, you're Fowles' father. So I told him, you see, you were thinking they would say you're an SAN and this is your son. Now you're being introduced as Fowles' father. So it doesn't really matter. But the point about the second sequence is that you are trying to convert siblings to partners. I want you to understand the difference. They were siblings. They played with each other. They spanked each other. They insulted each other. They knew how to make up. And suddenly you're trying to force them to become business partners. If you do not define this clearly, then you're going to have a problem. Then you go into the future generation.